Hi everyone, and welcome back to another special event. We're doing another E3 special. This is going to be with Ubisoft. We just finished watching it live at our hotel, and we're going to be kind of catching up with what we watched, what we saw. Kind of a lengthier, showcase than the other ones that we've recently seen. So we've recently seen Square, we've seen Bethesda, and now we have Ubisoft right before Sony. So a few things were expected, a few not, a few kind of letdowns of what we didn't get to see. But overall, this is probably one of the better showcases that we've seen outside of the Microsoft, the big three, I guess you could call them. But what are your immediate thoughts from what you saw right off the bat?
It was decent. 90 minutes long, so a lot of content. We got, and we'll get to some of this, right? We got some footage of the games we wanted to see. One big absence that we were all wrong about, sadly. Hopefully it's coming later tonight. But overall, I thought it was pretty good. Had a little weirdness in it, as always, because of Ubisoft. Miyamoto showed up again, which was cool. Cool few surprises there, but let's get to the games, I guess.
Yeah, so let's actually just go in the order that the conference went in, and it's a long conference, so we're not going to spend too much time outside of the big games that are coming from Ubi. But let's start off. So very weird intro. We had Just Dance 2019
with a dancing panda.
Yeah, Dancing Panda came out. There was a marching band, which is similar to what EA did for Madden a couple years ago. That was beyond weird. And they came out. There was a lot of dancing. They did mention Just Dance 2019, so kind of a cult following to the Just Dance series, and we've got another one coming, so that's Just Dance. Not much to really touch on that.
Yeah, they didn't show anything specific.
Yeah, I didn't even see a date for a release or anything.
I don't remember one. I didn't see any footage either.
Yeah, Just Dance 2019, so that could be something in 2019 or maybe in the fall, maybe a Christmas release. It's actually a big seller during the Christmas time anyway, so it kicked off to another big thing for me, which is one of my favorite franchises, which is Beyond Good and Evil 2. Amazing trailer showing kind of the team that you're going to be playing as in the story. We saw the monkey character that was in the last one, and we saw the female that was with the monkey in the first trailer that we initially got at last E3. One of the main characters was the pig. I always forget his name. Paige. I'm pretty sure. Did make an appearance in the kitchen. He was cooking like he does in most of the games that we see him on.
Oh, you're good. You're good. Sorry. I have notes here.
We see him on, so that was kind of an interesting thing to see him back. We did see another engineer who's going to be part of the team as well, so that's looking really cool. And then in the trailer, we finally see Jade. So we did hear that this was going to be a prequel. She did look kind of like a darker character, whether she's the bad guy, maybe she's brainwashed, maybe something's going on, but they did recognize her in the trailer as far as the characters did, so there's some kind of relation going on somewhere. We don't know anything about the story outside of that. After that kind of mentioned, the trailer kind of finished. They had the director, the creative director, and some other folks come out. And then there was like Joseph Gordon-Levitt came out, and then he started talking about a new platform called Hit Record.
Hit Record. It's not their hit record.
Yeah, Hit Record, and they're going to allow, I guess, fans to kind of import their art into the game, and you are going to be able to get paid for that. Funny enough, I saw that on social media, that they do kind of pay folks that contribute art portions of how that is. So we'll see.
Music as well.
Yeah, and music. So that was kind of a good presentation. It looks really cool. We did see kind of a very short gameplay demo of what it's going to look like. They did mention that some of it will be playable behind doors at E3, at the E3 proper, I should say, and we'll hear probably more about it down the line. But that's pretty much it. No launch date, no window, no anything.
No, they said, I just have a few notes here. They called it a space opera, which was interesting phrasing. It's the end of the 24th century, they mentioned. It's the city of Ganesha, so it had a kind of Indian look to the city in the actual gameplay. It's going to be an action role-playing game, is what they said, and it can be played in single-player or co-op. So kind of interesting. And by the way, on the Hit Record thing, it's called the Space Monkey Program.
Yeah, Space Monkey Program.
So if you're an artist out there, or a contributor, or just a fan who's artistic, check that out. Maybe you can get some of your work in the game, which would be pretty amazing.
Yeah, so awesome that we got to see more on it. We were hoping that we would. There was some talk that we might not see anything on it, but I'm assuming it's there. like I said, no release date, no window. We're still hoping it's this generation, but still the potential that it will be not this generation. So,
yeah,
pretty good news on that.
One thing I just noticed, I had the note here. So Just Dance 2019 does release in October.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
October
I
release.
must have forgotten it.
Yeah. Okay, so some other things that are going on that was there was we heard more about Rainbow Six Siege. Mm-hmm. So we talked about how, or I should say they talked about there's 35 million players that have played the game. I had forgotten that it's already been out for 2.5 years. So yeah. They've been constantly giving out great content. They talked about the free content that's been available during that time. And they are talking more about their pro leagues, kind of more content that's coming. There's going to be another contest for the pro leagues that's coming out in the fall. And there'll be more about the pro leagues this August. So nothing really too new about a sequel or anything. Rainbow Six Siege has had content rolling in for a while, so a sequel may not even be necessary at this point. And it wasn't designed to be a sequel type game. So pretty cool. I mean, I know you're...
I played it occasionally, not a huge fan. The X and Pro patches just dropped last week, I believe, right? Mm-hmm. So they talked about some new locations for the Pro League. Brazil was mentioned, kind of getting out there into other countries. So pretty cool. Just good to see the ongoing support.
Yeah, the other piece that followed that up was probably the weirdest intro that I've seen on E3 in a while. A guy shows up in a motorcycle, which may have been like a moped or something. It was kind of strange. He was in a full like Evel Knievel type outfit. Roared through the back of the theater to the front, and then when you see the back, he had a Trials patch on his back, or at least maybe embroidered or something like that. And that's for the new Trials game that's called Trials Rising, which looks pretty cool. A lot of new environments, a lot of new weather effects, all kinds of crazy things coming for it. It's going to be releasing February 2019. So the month, the one of the 2 months that has been mentioned at E3 nonstop. We have February and October are just going nuts with releases. You're a big Trials guy, aren't you?
A little bit, yeah. Play quite a bit. Play with my sons too. They enjoy it, and their friends play it. Looked really good. I like that they talked about the I forget what they called them, but the hardcore Trials players that have been helping Ubisoft develop it over the past 2 years and add to a lot of the customization. It looked like everything you expect from Trials, but just more and deeper, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. As you said, coming February, they also mentioned it's coming to the Switch. So yep. Not really a big surprise there, but it looks good. I'm glad to see Trials returning. Yeah,
not exactly the biggest hardware pusher when it comes to graphics or anything, so it should fit really nice on the Switch. So looks a lot of fun. If the directors did mention that their past levels seemed a little hard for introductory people, so they have like a Trials University or something that people can go learn.
Yeah, to help you learn how to play. Yep.
Looks pretty cool. Another big thing Ains was really looking forward to is Division 2. So Division 2 had a massive start trailer where they kind of talked about things. We saw a similar trailer to what we'd seen already. Creative director came out, talked about the game. In the trailer, something that was interesting to me was in the first division, it's all in the wintertime in New York City and Manhattan. So it's snow, everything covered. In the trailer, the snow melts right away. And it goes into Washington, D.C., and everything is in a different season. So whether it be spring or summer, wherever we're at in the year, there's not going to be that same weather element that there was in the past. Looked a lot more gritty than the first one, in my opinion. There was a lot more maybe death happening or bad situation happening with the people in the world. Other things about it was they mentioned it was 7 months after the Manhattan.
Yeah, they said 6 months yesterday and 7 months today.
Yesterday, so that was interesting. And then the trailer kind of spun around, and right before they started talking more about the game, they were overlooking DC from Arlington Cemetery, which was really interesting to me. And then they went into it. And so as far as new things that are coming, there is going to be specialization where you'll be able to choose tons of menus to do a lot of customization. There will be 8-player raids, so that's a big deal. The applause from the crowd was massive, tons of that. There is going to be what's considered year one content. There's going to be 3 different episodes, and it's going to be full of new story, new areas that will unlock when you get there, and it is all free to everybody, so you don't need any special pass. So that's a big deal. Division 2 will also be playable at E3, so we might try to get our hands on that if we can. If we're not going to have multiple hour wait time, then we'll try to play it as much as we can. And we have an official launch date now, so March 15th, 2019. which is probably a good considering all the releases that are coming out this year.
It's going to need a few weeks.
Move it a little further out. So closing, and then there was a closing trailer, which kind of showed the rest of the DC area. And there was a lot of recognizable landmarks, locations of the DC area. So it looks actually fantastic. I'm more excited about it now than I was even yesterday or the last few days when it was on the Microsoft stage, just seeing more of the DC grittiness. So it looks very, very interesting to me.
Yeah, and they've confirmed it's a one-to-one recreation of DC, which is amazing. When they did New York, it had actual landmarks and places, but they cut out certain blocks. So the fact that it's a one-to-one creation is cool. Going back to the specializations and the content, you can tell, and the raids, you can tell that they were really speaking to the Division fan. So if you're part of the Division community and hardcore community that's followed it for a long time, some of the complaints early on, before they revised the game greatly, was that endgame content was severely lacking once you got to level 30. And that the initial incursions, they called them in the first division, which were kind of supposed to be the raid-like activities, were lacking as well. They got better over time, as with everything with the division. But the specialization pass sounded real interesting, because what he basically said is once you hit max level, which may be 30 again, we don't know, you then choose one of 3 specializations, which gives you a unique weapon and unique abilities that you can then basically start down a whole new career path or specialization path. So it sounds like that's just going to be the beginning, which is the way it should be in an action role-playing game. Reaching max level should always just be the start of your character. They also 8-player raids is really impressive, of course. Hopefully they design those better. I know the feedback they got on incursions early on, they really kind of amped those up. So they were definitely speaking to fans. The year 1 content, 3 episodes of expansions, and they also showed a calendar where in between each of those they're having scheduled title updates. So they'll be taking player feedback and probably fixing bugs and other things throughout. So it looks like a very, very bright future for the Division as a franchise. I will be there in March for sure. I have Bert on record saying he's not buying it day 1, so we may already be getting through those cracks. We'll see.
Yeah, so. I'm actually more excited now, and hopefully those bugs will not be present as the first one was. I mean, I have videos of the bugs that existed. They were horrible.
Nobody's ever seen a bug in Division.
Yeah. Anyways.
So, looks great.
Yeah. Division 2, if you weren't excited about it before, if you were and didn't watch the Ubisoft conference, check out the trailers that have come out for it since. It looks really, really strong. So we moved on to Mario Rabbids, which, funny enough, I had thought this DLC had come out already. It is the Donkey Kong Adventure DLC, which is simply adding Donkey Kong in a new area to the map as a playable character. So they brought out like a full band / orchestra. I mean, they had violins, cellos, they had guitars, drums, everything was there. And they brought the composer that scored the game out, and they had kind of the introduction with gameplay footage in the background of Donkey Kong. So this is Mario Rabbids on the Switch, if you're kind of curious to what we're talking about when it comes to that. And I guess I was close to it thinking that it was going to come out or had come out, but it's coming out June 26th, so it's right around the corner. If I believe that game had a season pass initially, or some kind of a content, but I believe you can buy the Donkey Kong Adventure by itself and play that on. So so the season pass holders get it. They didn't mention an exact price if you want it standalone. So if you are a fan of this game, which we are, we actually have it. We traveled with it to get here and played a bit of it. So pretty exciting news. And that was the start of the Nintendo Ubisoft relationship. So we'll kind of talk about that in just a second. But the other game that we had mentioned in our E3 predictions / what we were looking for, and one of my biggest things was Skull and Bones. Yeah. So Skull and Bones had a massive appearance at this Ubisoft conference, and they went through the game, they showed story, they showed mechanics, and then they went into gameplay.
Yeah, so, and it looks good. It looks real good. They basically started by showing you what they called a hideout, which I guess is kind of your base of operations, right? And then they went into a ship, and they weren't explaining a ton. Rather, they were letting the game speak for itself, which I kind of like, because I like sitting back and just figuring out everything that's going on. Okay. So some of the notable things, and I took some notes here too, is it looked like there were variations of ships. So bigger ships, smaller ships, depending, I guess, on who you're playing with or what you prefer. Maybe there's some difference in speed there. Full customization, so not just cosmetic either. There's all sorts of different cannons, figureheads, sails, and then they had different abilities. So it looks like you'll be able to kind of upgrade your ship. There's a ship level, and each ship had a hit point meter. So basically how strong your ship is, the level of your ship, how powerful the guns are. Looks really cool. They talked about, when you're sailing out and around, you'll see other player ships, and you can team up with them on the fly, or as pirates do, right? You can battle. They also showed like a high warship, they called it, and a ship you couldn't defeat. And then they showed a person teaming up with 4 other ships to take it down. And then after it was taken down, they just started fighting each other. So the fight over the loot, there's going to be loot. Scheduled loot all over in each ship. So when you destroy a ship, there's golden stuff in the water you can get in and loot. Looks interesting. You can board each other's ships. The cannon play and like the destruction of each looks really good. They also mentioned, I think, what I take the notes on there, challenges or bases where there's bases you can kind of attack that are different levels as well. So it looks like a pretty deep world that you can kind of level up, like role-playing type, basically.
Yeah, it looks almost like a mature Sea of Thieves game.
Yeah. Role-playing Sea of Thieves.
As childish or as for little kids.
Whoa.
That's below the belt.
Uncalled for.
So more of a mature game for pirates. So it looks really cool. There was no launch date. It only said 2019.
Yep.
So hopefully they are not a February launch as we get closer to that time. Maybe a spring. Later spring, or maybe even in the summer, which would be kind of a cool release time for us, since it seems to be getting to be crowded at this time of the year. So cool. We saw more of it. We saw gameplay, we saw the trailers, and we saw pretty much what we needed from Skull and Bones at E3 this year.
Yeah, excited about it.
Okay, so the other big game that was actually announced at previous conferences was Transference VR. Elijah Wood did come out and talk about it as well. That is releasing in fall of 2018. So another VR game. If you are into the VR games, this looks pretty interesting.
Cool.
It looks pretty dark, actually, and very much like a psychological horror, in my opinion, versus like gore going on just for that type of horror. But it looks very interesting. At one point I was watching, I was like, what the hell is going on? It looked like a bad nightmare going on. So check that out. It looks really cool. All right, and back with the fun conversation that we were talking about before about Nintendo and Ubisoft, we heard about Starlink. Now, Starlink has been kind of mentioned in previous conferences, so to me, that part of the announcement or segment of the showcase was not new. But in case you haven't known about it, it's a game where you pretty much will buy the software, and then you also buy the toys, and then you upgrade your ship in real life, and it upgrades in the game. So kind of a cool little concept, I guess, kind of like the Disney Infinity stuff, where you have the characters, you have your amiibos, things like that, where you kind of have the actual content, and then you have it in the software in some form. But what was interesting about this is Yves came out, and when he came out, he was talking about the great partnership with Nintendo. And sure enough, 2 seconds later, I told Ains, I was like, hey, I bet you Miyamoto's in the crowd somewhere. And sure enough, the camera rolls over to him, and he's in the crowd. And in the background of this the whole time, Star Fox's ship is there, and they mentioned Star Fox, and Yves gifted a, I guess, I don't know what scale that would be, 1/24th scale, I guess, of the Star Fox ship, which will be available on the Switch version of the game when it will be able to be played. So he's coming to the Starlink game, which is, I guess, a very neat thing. I'm not sure what else we can really say about the game itself. It looks very simple from a space starship type game, so that's looking pretty cool.
Yeah, it's interesting they're going with the toys to life approach, given the Disney Infinity's died, right? Skylanders has died, and that time for that seems to have passed. But game looks relatively cool. Obviously, Nintendo fans will be big on Star Fox being there. Yeah. I think the craziest thing about it was October 16th. And I'm not even going to repeat the phrase I said when they announced that date, but it wasn't positive. But then again, this is a very, very different game and likely audience than the people buying Red Dead or Battlefield. So maybe it'll be okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much we can say about it. It looks like more of maybe a kid's game. I'm not sure if we're going to be the ones doing any pre-orders or anything.
Nope.
But
no, I can tell you no.
You know ahead of time?
No, I know.
But it's got Nintendo stuff.
The answer's no.
No? Okay, cool. So that's cool. Another crazy launch date in October, but at the same time, the people that were probably going to be buying some of those games are probably not going to be buying this game, and it might be designed for those kids.
Yeah.
So cool game. Moving on, For Honor, which I actually played at launch, was not the most impressed. Ains liked a lot of aspects of it, but he was very honest in saying there's definitely room for improvement. And it has been improved. It was almost every month they were having updates at some point.
They've done a lot.
So just like Division, just like Siege, For Honor has been highly supported by the development team. And we have some new content coming. So it was not mentioned if these were Chinese or Japanese. It was simply mentioned that it was, well, I should say the title of the DLC is called Marching Fire. Mm-hmm. The trailer had them fighting, and all of a sudden time froze, and one of the characters walked towards some smoke that was shaped like a dragon. Yep. And then 2 seconds later, we had these characters in there. I think it's Chinese from what it seems. And there's some really cool looking characters. So there's 4 new characters, 4 new playable characters with the DLC.
New faction, basically.
Yeah, a new faction. It will be releasing October 16th. So more October release dates, which is, like I said, folks, we're not even at E3 officially yet, and there's more dates coming out. So
I don't even know what's happening.
Yeah, it's
I don't know.
It's gonna be a tough.
I don't know what's happening. Why is everything coming out in a 3-week span?
Yeah.
You have December, you have November, you have August. It's wide open.
We're going to have to saving for Black Friday more than likely, because that's going to be a lot of money in software if you're into just the games that exist already. We haven't even talked about a lot of the new games that are releasing at that time. This is just DLC for existing games. Yeah. So big deal there. They also talked about a new 4x4 mode where you can play multiplayer, which is kind of a neat thing.
The way you said it sounded like 4x4x4x4. So
4x4. So
yeah, 16 players.
16 players.
No, it's a 4-on-4. What they call breach, I think it's called.
Yeah, we were joking. The accent was strong. It's a bridge.
Yeah, we can tell what he said.
It's a breach
mode.
It
kind of funny, but it looks like an assault type mode, which players have been asking for. So maybe 4 people in a castle or a structure, and 4 people have to breach it. So it looks pretty cool. Highlighted some of the new classes in the new faction. And showed my boy the Conqueror getting beat up, which
everybody's getting beat up by them.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. The Knights wouldn't fold like that. But yeah, no, it looks good. It's great to see that they're going to continue supporting For Honor into 2019, and it's just a shame it's coming at a time where no one gets time to play.
Yeah. So not much else on that. It was just new content coming. Like I said, that's October 16th. Another game which I guess has not gotten the most press, but it does look like one of the more interesting racing games coming out. So it's Crew 2, which is actually releasing this month. If you weren't in the closed beta, we actually were. We played a little bit. Very different of type game. It's not meant to compete with Horizon, I guess, as a direct competitor. Horizon has a lot more sharp driving mechanics, and it's just driving. This has airplanes, it has boats and motorcycles we just saw. It had F1 cars, it had just basic street cars. And the beta was fun. It's definitely not like I said, highly tuned. There's some things I liked about it, some things I didn't. If you were getting into the open beta, it is coming out on the 21st of June. And you can simply jump in at that point and see if you like it too. But it's coming right around the corner.
And it launches the next week, right?
Yeah, 26th, I think.
26th.
For
yeah, no, it looks good. We were especially excited by the new trailer they showed. It wasn't gameplay, but they highlighted some interesting things. For instance, they had BMW and Porsche official race cars. Yep. They had the Red Bull F1 car.
Yeah, that's my boy Daniel Ricciardo.
Yeah, so that was interesting. That means they've picked up some licenses along the way, right? Yep. So that was cool, but I tell you, man, after Forza Horizon's debut yesterday, it's going to be hard to compete.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, the sharp driving mechanics in Forza Horizon and Forza Motorsport are very hard to beat for any game. I mean, I enjoy it more than Gran Turismo now because of that, and Gran Turismo is their biggest direct competitor. The Crew 2 is going to have to come in with a lot of extra stuff that we obviously see from the boat and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
By the way, the official launch date is June 29th for Crew 2.
The only day during that week we didn't say, so I'm glad we cleared that up.
Yep. And I guess we'll kind of close it out with the biggest game that was teased before. Yeah. We were all kind of expecting it. Assassin's Creed Odyssey. So it is in Greece. They did mention that it has been in development for 3 years. So it was not, I guess they were overlapping origins during development cycle. At first glance, it looks literally with the same art style, the same engine, very same graphics from Origins, just in Greece.
Looks, yeah, all the way down to the font.
Yeah, when they finally showed gameplay, it looked like you were playing Origins just in a different locale, which is, I guess, good. And if they're gonna run it and it's been that fine-tuned, fantastic. As far as the story is looking, it looks like it takes place around in Greece at 431 BC, which is pretty cool. They did mention there's going to be some lore from some areas around there. One of the things they talked about was Sparta, and they did mention King Leonidas' spear. If you're not very good on history, he's the main king, I guess, during the time of when the 300 battle took place. And that was actually shown in kind of a trailer in there too, so that's pretty cool.
And the character showed... The lady who handed the spear to the child says she was Leonidas' daughter.
Yeah, there you go. So it probably happened right after that. There's definitely a lot of Greek stuff going on, and probably some Greek mythology as well. I heard Ares' name mentioned. I heard Zeus's name mentioned. I saw Athena's statue. So that might be into the game as well. And I did see them looking in the sky in the constellations like in Origins. So a lot of the same was there. One thing that was different for me that I didn't see was an Assassin's Creed hood going on any of the characters. So I'm not sure if they're going to be following the Creed that takes place from what happened in the previous game with Bayek. But one other thing is you can choose your character at the start of the game. You're either a male or a female, and you stay that character throughout the entire game. Yeah. So that's kind of a big thing. But there was also a big scene battle at the end where you can take place. That's something that was not in Origins. And then the trailer kind of closed out with the Minotaur, who's a kind of famous in Greek mythology.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of cool things. We did get a launch date. Do we remember that launch date? October, wasn't it?
No, did we get a date?
Yeah, we were kind of laughing when we saw the launch date. Or did we not get a date?
I thought we were joking it was going to be October, and then they didn't mention a date.
Let me actually look that up, folks.
Sorry. One thing, they showed good old Socrates.
Yeah.
At one point, Cassandra is speaking to Socrates, so definitely looks to have a lot of basis in the mythology and the history of ancient Greece, which was neat. And you saw the difference in the just the water and kind of the color of the environment as well. So.
Yep. So official launch date October 5th, 2018.
Why?
Another one. Yeah, I remember the launch date did roll by because I said October 5th, and you were like, why? Why didn't they just wait? Why didn't they wait till November?
It's the first word that comes to mind.
Yeah, so very busy October and February coming, folks. It was a long conference. The saddest thing was no Splinter Cell. We're thinking it might be coming out maybe in the Sony press conference or something, and that might be their big, I don't know, mic drop moment at that point. I can't wait for next Splinter Cell if it's even in the works.
Well, if you think about all the third-party world premieres Microsoft had.
Yeah.
You've got to imagine Sony has some, right?
Yeah, so they have to have them, so that might be there.
So, and we hadn't seen another rumor we didn't see at Microsoft was Rocksteady's Superman.
Yeah, I'd seen that on social media quite a bit. I think that's going to come out there, so they're going to have a great conference, I think. But yeah, so Ubisoft did really well compared to the other stuff we've seen from Square,
from the third party,
from Bethesda. And it was pretty good. It was a little long, maybe a little long-winded for my taste. Some of the stuff, it was just going on too long. But overall, it was pretty good. So if you liked most of the stuff that's come out from Ubi in the past, you probably liked this conference quite a bit. It did give us some launch dates. It gave us more details on a lot of games. And we seemed to enjoy most of the conference, including the dancing panda.
So yeah, no, I liked it. They do a better job presentation-wise than Bethesda. Bethesda needs to step it up. Square Enix was, we'll get to, but, we already talked about Square Enix, didn't we?
Yeah, probably. We've been doing a lot of recording. It's all a blur.
Yeah, we've got little sleep and recording a lot. Square Enix was really poor in comparison. I thought Ubisoft did a really good job. Pumped about Division 2. And if you think about the content, right, they talked about content for Siege, For Honor, their ongoing support of their big titles, and then they spread out their big releases. So you've got Odyssey October. You've got Division 2 coming in March, and then I would imagine, as we said, you probably have Skull and Bones coming in late summer, early third quarter of 2019. So with Beyond Good and Evil 2 maybe following for holiday or 2020. So they've got a steady stream of major titles releasing. Yeah, I think we talked about it before. Ubisoft has really become a AAA, grade A publisher. Yeah. You know, there was a time when their releases were really broken. A lot of things were screwy. They've really turned it around, in my opinion, and become one of the premier. They're one of my favorite publishers.
Yeah, I think they're one of the best right now. They've kind of gone away from that glitch launch game that they had. We didn't see Watch Dogs, which I'm kind of good about. I'm glad about, because I just
give it some time.
Have no interest in Watch Dogs at the moment.
They need to rethink it.
So yeah.
Yeah.
But anyways, hope you enjoyed our coverage, folks, for Ubisoft. We're still thinking there might be some more surprises from Ubi before the end of E3.
Yeah.
But if you haven't watched the rest of our stuff, take a look at the rest of our E3 playlist, and we are going to be covering every conference that happens every day. So thanks for watching.
Thank you.